Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the session of Management and Mythology. Ever since the curriculum of management we started in India, we have been following Western techniques, Western principles. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but at the end of the day, every management professional from India learns Western techniques and applies it on Indians. Somewhere I feel there is a bit of a disconnect out here. And that is why, over a period of time, many of the well-known techniques which have been developed and practiced abroad have been brought in India, but have been kind of waylaid, not followed. Let's take the example of Kaizen, time and motion study, MBO. All these have now become just an academic pursuit, knowing fully well that none of the professionals are probably going to use it in their career when they leave. So management is something that is very, very unique in this scenario. In India, we have to understand one thing, and that is that the principles that we learn have to be used for the Indians, by the Indians, in the most Indian way. So every management professional must appreciate the fact that they must accept the fact that a coconut has to be broken for the inauguration of a software center. You like it or not? A Vishwakarma Puja has to be performed at a shop floor, no matter how automated and how mechanized it be. This is the Indian principle of management. We accept it. In this scenario, let me tell you a small, interesting story here. The story is to be understood. It's a very well-known story, but let's understand the story in a slightly different manner. And this story is relevant from the perspective that in India, we have today a young population which is changing the rules of the game, a young population which is extremely impatient. They are not willing to give that much time that their fathers and grandfathers gave to reach a status or reach a level of expertise. There's a small story I would like to start with. Narad, the celestial sage, once got hold of a mango and he decided to visit Lord Shiva. Something unique about this mango is that it couldn't be shared. Only one person could eat it. When he reached Lord Shiva, both his sons, Ganesha and Kartikeya, both wanted that mango. So it was decided that only one could get it, so they decided to set on a race. The race was whoever takes one round of the earth will get it. At the mark, on your mark, get set, go, Kartikeya flies off on his peacock. Ganesha's left with mouse. Both of them are no match to Kartikeya and his peacock. So he uses a smart one. What he does is he puts his parents in the middle, takes one round and says, my world is my parents. I'm sure all of you heard the story, nothing unique about it. Why am I bringing this story is to see it in a new light, in a new perspective. Ganesha changed the rule of the game. He changed the rule of the game in a manner wherein he said that this is not going to work in the usual way. Today we have to look at it in a modern perspective. All the startups of our country are the people who have changed the rules of the game. They are not willing to wait that long. So what they do is our youngsters are extremely impatient. These startups are churning out organizations and giving vent to their impatience. And that is what the story kind of conveys if I have to look at it from the management perspective. We see fractals in the same way. Every aspect in an organization or in management is kind of unique to itself. But when you look at it in a larger framework, there is a similarity of sorts. And if I have to use this interpolation to take it further, I'm bringing up the aspect of management, and we take one aspect. Management is a huge subject. We take one aspect, and that is leadership in management. Let's look at leadership. Our management, our mythology, our lores, they have all the knowledge which is simply waiting to be used. An organization is as good as its leader. And there are three aspects that I'm going to bring up here in terms of the relevance to a leader. There are many, we'll talk of three here. The first topic here is integrity. No leader no head of an organization can survive if his integrity is at question. There is a small story that the story was told by Bhishma to Yudhishthir, and he tells him that, "Oh future king, whatever you have in life, make sure you have integrity." And he quotes it and he says, "Shilam pradhanam purushe." Integrity is the most important aspect in a man, and don't ever part with it. Having said that, let us look at another very important aspect in management, and that is power. Power is one of the most important things that a leader must have. But we will see what kind of power are we talking about. Mahabharata mentions at one place two kinds of power structure that has been created in Mahabharata. So this analogy is brought up in the form of two trees. These trees are, the first one is Duryodhan as a tree. The uniqueness about this tree, about Duryodhan, is that its trunk is compared with Karna, the strength, the branches are Shakuni, and the flowers and the fruits are Dushasana. And the roots of this tree is Dhritarashtra, who's so insecure and so greedy for power. Let us compare with another power structure that is there, and that is Yudhishthir. Here, the trunk is Arjuna, the branches are Bhima, the fruits and flowers are the sons of Madri, and the roots are Krishna. If I compare these two power structures, we realize that the first tree is born of passion, and it has its roots which are diseased. Its roots are diseased with passion, greed for power. That is Dhritarashtra. And if you look at the other, it's actually a tree of what we call tree of dharma, tree of righteousness. And there, the roots are very, very strong with its fundamentals, with the right person out there who is holding on to the entire power structure, and that is Krishna. Power also has a thing about the strength that power gives, right? And we also have heard very often say that power corrupts. What is exactly power? That we have to understand. That in the Indian context of leadership, we have a context called the monk leader. The monk leader is a leader who doesn't quite live for himself. He doesn't just care for himself. His objective is that of the welfare of his people. Here there is an interesting verse in Mahabharata which compares the leader with a pregnant woman. A pregnant woman, till she is carrying the embryo within herself, she gives away or does not take many of the things that she craves for. She ensures that whatever she takes is for the welfare of the embryo that she is carrying. And a leader is supposed to be like that. A ruler or a leader is supposed to be like that, where he cares more for the people. And that's the concept of what we call the monk leader. And Ramayana mentions it very beautifully as a concept of Rajarshi, a Raja Rishi. A Raja who has all the administrative abilities but behaves like a Rishi, wherein he has no attachment to a person, to an object, or to material. And that is what the concept is. And it's a very beautiful example of what we call the management of the secular in the light of the sacred. And that's what summarizes the whole concept of Rajarshi, of Raja and Rishi. Before we wind up on power, I want to bring up two characters from Mahabharata to understand the usage or the lack of proper usage of power. And the two characters I'm going to talk about are Bhishma and Krishna. We all know Bhishma gave up the throne, he took a vow. Let us see how effective was that. So Bhishma took a personal vow to take care of, and he said, I will guard the throne no matter what. But a stage had come wherein his vow was absolutely ineffective. He said he would take care of the throne, but there was nobody to sit on the throne. So to that extent, he did not use the power that he had in his capability to take the throne back. The very logic on the basis of which he had discarded the throne was over. Today, the throne had no heir to sit on. And he allows it, he fritters it away to let somebody else come and beget children on the widows of the king. With this, he made one very, very big mistake. And the first mistake he made is that the person who came was not a Kshatriya. The person who came had nothing to do with the throne. And thereafter, the entire generation that came out of that, none of them were Kurus, because they were all of mixed blood. And thereafter, there was not a single king who came out after that was a Kuru. And at this very, very important aspect must be seen that for his personal vow, he allowed non-Kurus to sit on the throne, and he had promised to guard the throne. He had the power, did not exercise it. If I compare this with Krishna, Krishna did everything without craving for power ever. His acts of killing people, for example, he killed Kansi, killed Shishupal, but he never sat on the throne at all. But he allowed others to sit on it, but make sure that they ruled properly. His support to the Pandavas was not because they were great friends of his, or he kind of had a liking for Arjuna, which is true, but that was not the reason. His reason was very, very clear, and that is that this is a power that you must have go on the right hands of the right people. And that is why whenever he had a chance to sit on the throne, he never sat on it. But did he break vows which were at a personal level? Yes, he did. He had vowed not to take up arms in the war of Kurukshetra, but when there was a need to do it, he did pick up the weapons. If I compare these two people here, for Krishna, the personal vow, okay, my personal integrity, my personal vow was not very critical. For him, it was the goodness at large, or the common good, which was extremely important. And people who have the power must know when to exercise power, when to allow that power to go. Bhishma did not know when to go, because for him, his personal space, his personal vow was more important. For Krishna, it was not. So power is definitely one of the most important aspects that we find in a leader. And we've also seen how it can kind of corrupt. At the same time, you should know when to use it. This brings me to another very important aspect in a leader, and that is ethics. So we've spoken about integrity, we've spoken about power. Let us look at ethics. Ethics, if I have to explain it in a very simple term, is basically the knowledge or to understand what is good and what is not so good or what is bad. If it was that simple, then we wouldn't be studying ethics here. The problem happens when you bring in a new word here, which is called context. When you take something in its context is when you have ethical dilemmas. I'll give you another example of how the context in ethics is extremely important. My first statement, a woman killed a man. That's my first statement. My second statement is, a woman killed a man when the man was trying to rape her. Both the acts are the same, but in the second one, the context has changed. In ethics, the context is extremely important. Let us look at an ethical aspect of in the case of the Kurukshetra war. We have seen a number of deaths, be it the death of Bhishma, be it the death of Karna, or be it the death of Drona, where we've always said, oh, that was wrong. They were against the laws of the war. In management, we have a concept called ethics of emergency situation. Ethics of emergency situation refers to the fact that you take certain steps based on the emergency that crops up in front of you. At that point of time, you really don't follow the rules as such. If I look at all these three deaths, they were all kind of uncalled for or not in the right manner. Bhishma had to lay down his arms because a woman was standing in front of him. A woman in the war was against the law. Dronacharya was told lies that your son is dead, and Karna was killed when he was unarmed. But if you look at it in context of the epic, if you look at the way it was handled, then you will see that none of them had done right things when they had a chance to do it. None of them, more important, none of them were quite on the right side of law. They were not on the right side of what I call good versus evil. All of them were supporting a wrong cause. And in that scenario, these people were really not killed. They were eliminated. Indian mythology, or if I use the word Hindu mythology, is probably the only mythology which distinguishes between lies and untruth. Lies is something that you utter for selfish reasons. Untruth need not be so. So what was uttered in these kind of scenarios was really not lies, they were untruth. And what was done was, they were really not killed in that sense, they were eliminated. And that's a very, very important point to be understood, that in dire situations, when there is an issue of emergency, you take the call of on the spot, whatever seems to be correct. General Sherman, a hero of the American Civil War, has very nicely said, war is cruelty, and you cannot refine it. So at the end of the day, we are looking at a war which was not just a simple war of people fighting for a piece of land. It was a war of good versus evil. It was a war of the right versus wrong. And to ensure that the right had its way, if a few untruths were uttered, frankly, it wasn't all that wrong. And that's exactly what General Sherman is supposed to have said. Thank you very much.